All right, everyone, welcome into episode 206 here of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. I believe it's our first one of November here. I am Nick Halef, as always, from Chattanooga, Tennessee, the United States, where it's getting darker a lot earlier these days. And joining me from Americana, Sao Paulo, Brazil, is Gus Tanazele. Gus, how are you doing on this Friday night?
Doing good, doing good. American is getting hotter by the day. It's been really a hot week. We actually got some weather alerts that it might have some really heavy rains and some thunderstorms and windfall. We'll see what
Yeah,
happens.
I heard there was a massive tornado in Brazil today.
Oh yeah, in the south, yeah, in Paraná as well. Shout out to my girlfriend. Shout out my girlfriend Thais Paião.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah,
Um,
she
also,
said, great pod.
there is a very slight chance that my weather radio may go off at some point. There's some storms moving through the region, but I'm not too overly concerned about it. Just as a heads up, while we're talking about weather alerts,
Yeah,
because the weather's phenomenal, but we may see snow on Monday, at least a little bit. So.
Oh, here it might have really heavy, but it's gonna be at the early morning hours, at least what the weather predicted. So again, shout out my girlfriend Thais Yo. Thanks for watching me. Yesterday we had a good time down in Allianz Park, and while we'll talk about that, definitely talk about Palmeiras winning another game 2-0 over Santos. Palmeiras top of the Brazilian league, 2 points ahead of Flamengo. The Flamengo draw on Wednesday against São Paulo. I feel like it was more Flamengo letting São Paulo draw than actually São Paulo having any merit. I feel like Flamengo makes some silly mistakes, and it was funny that São Paulo indirectly helped a rival in the Brazilian Championship. And speaking of Santos, we mentioned losing to Palmeiras 2-0, really going to a really tough time. I mean, Santos has been, for the last 4 years, how Santos has been in a really hard spot. They've been to the Libertadores final in 2020, lost to Palmeiras in the extra time, but since then has been a turmoil. Twice has almost been relegated in the state championship, but eventually in 2023 they were relegated in the Brazilian championship. A very traumatic day. And then last year they won the second division, but it was a weird title where fans were mad at the coach and there weren't so much celebration, more like you guys did what you guys supposed to do. And this year feels like the same mistakes are being repeated. A misfeat of a roster. Of course, this year it felt like there was going to be some hope with Neymar coming in at the beginning of the year. It felt like he was going to be the difference maker. He's going to carry Santos to at least winning the state championship, be competitive in the national competitions. But none of the
it really felt like too the things really accelerated downhill after the death of Pele. The heart and soul of Santos passed.
And ironically, that's fair. Since Pele passing away in December 2022, Santos has not been on a great track. And there were some rumors, even our friend Jason Wyrick on the comments here, I appreciate you watching us, mentioning that Chelsea wants to buy Santos. I haven't heard anything here. And this week, there's some websites that Todd Bowley show interest in buy Santos. He is the chairman of the American group Blue Co. But Santos is still not a SAF. Santos is still what I can say. Santos is not a public trade or like a not. I'm hold on a second.
So they're not like a publicly traded company. They're a private club, and obviously, if they were to be purchased by Santos, it would change that. Now I know we've talked about a couple of different other teams. I know there's one team that's owned by John Texter. That's what Botafogo. Then you have Red Bull.
Bragantino.
Yeah, so I mean, this would be what I guess the third, the fourth team in Brazil that would be in this type of situation. So, guys, I mean, my question to you, I guess, in this situation would be, you guys are Brazilian, right? Like, because if basically Santos is purchased by Chelsea, then Santos, one of the most storied clubs in Brazil's history, effectively becomes a farm team for Chelsea. The league. And is that something that you think Brazilians are okay with? You know, like I feel like that's kind of okay. Here is where your league is in the hierarchy, and now our top clubs are going to be bought off by European clubs to be a farm team.
The successful case in being bought and basically kind of being a little bit like a farm team is Bahia. Bahia has been really turned from water to wine, has been in a kind of on the top shelf in their region, in the Northeast, since they were purchased by the conglomerate called Citigroup, you know, the group that owns Manchester City, New York City Football Club, Bolivar, and other clubs around the world. But they invest in Bahia. They of course want to find young Brazilian talent to, you know, use in Manchester City, other clubs that they own, but also they want to be competitive. Bahia has a really faithful followers, and their fans really love their team, and they're kind of being, for example, they're on the top of the Brazilian league. They're in 5th place, and their rival Vitória are in the bottom, in the 16th place. So that shows a little bit of discrepancy. And Jason Marks said something interesting. I actually think being in Brazil makes it a loss level like that. Brazilian clubs are already losers. Yeah, that's fair. I think what Chelsea wants is the reliable way to get the talent early, because Santos, in the past, I'll say 20 years, has produced the 2 best players Brazil's seen, Neymar and Robinho. Of course, recently the farm system has not been as good. I mean, the last good generation was in the last 8 years with Bruno Henrique, with David Washington, but recently Santos has not been good in the academy, especially compared to Palmeiras. Palmeiras has been the kind of like the go-to team, you know, the standard. You know, they look at the 2 best players sold in Brazil recently, Hendrick and Stevon. They come from Palmeiras. But I think it's an investment strategy. Again, it's a rumor because Santos still are not a SAF. Santos is still not went to like a closed company to a business corporation or something that can be public limited company, can be like traded. So we have to wait to see if the council of I don't. It's so weird to translate those terms. It's like so every team that is not have an owner, that is not a SAF, is basically they have really old members that here we call like them. Yeah, we have a term for that for them. It's basically like partners, like members. They're like an associate that they pay every month. They're like the comparison I make often. The country club, like basically in Brazil, like basically Brazilian teams are country clubs. They have their members, they get together and make decisions about the club. But that's very archaic, in my opinion. That's like something you do in the last century. Like soccer has become so competitive and so worldwide play. They cannot make decisions from people that are not invested. Of course, they are members, but they're not managing their own money. They're managing someone else's money. They're
Right. And
managing.
this has been a recurring theme as we've talked about Brazilian soccer on this show about the speed of decisions that are made. They're not being made as business people. They're being made as just fans, right? Because that's the way these teams have been operated, these country club type mentality. Like if you look at like college football as an analogy, I mean, if you let the fans run the teams, kind of like it seems like it goes in Brazil, how many coaches would get fired? I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit later about our Vols and some of the lunatics in our fan base, but it is just at some point, right? Like when you're a business, right? You got to prioritize being steady. You got to prioritize steady growth. And the country club mentality, to me, at least from the outside looking in, does not seem like the best way to build any type of business. And I just want to point out that Jason has left some comments here. He's starting with, I actually think that being in Brazil makes it a lot less like that. Brazilian clubs already lose their stars to Europe. Chelsea is just going to invest in the infrastructure, and young players are going to have first dibs on the best ones. He additionally agreed with a few guests saying that having the young players under the umbrella is key. Chelsea invests in the grassroots effort. Santos theoretically thrives. Chelsea gets first dibs on the best player and shouts out Savo, excuse me.
Yeah, because for example, Bahia recently bought a player from Corinthians Academy for 1 million reais, and from the outside thinking, whoa, what an investment! Paid that money to a 15, 16-year-old player. But in today's soccer, you might have to, because if you don't make that investment now, and this player develops, he's going to be worth 20, 30, 40, 50 million reais, or even $50 million or euros if he really strikes. So, yeah. And Jason pointed out something that's fair. Country club mentality works well in German clubs, but Germans have more discipline. Yes, that's fair. Yeah, I'm not saying the Brazilian system it's not sustainable other parts of the world. It's just in Brazil they feel archaic, and it leads to corruption and misuse of money. I mean, look at Rio Branco. Rio Branco in the late 90s, early 2000 made so many transactions that back then, had a lot of money. Marcos Assunção, Pena, Thiago Ribeiro, Mineiro, you name it. There were a lot of money coming in, but Rio Branco never thought in the long term. Let's use this money to build a training center, to make the stadium more modern. No, let's use this money to pay to find expensive players, or to misuse, or to use that money for a short-term thing, not a long-term thing. And that's why, unfortunately, not only Rio Branco but other soccer teams in Brazil are struggling because of this misuse of money.
And do you think that Botafogo's success last year perhaps changes the paradigm, changes the Overton window when it comes to this? Jason says that type of system only thrives in a culture like Germany, basically nowhere else.
Yeah,
and I think more teams are gonna have to adopt that business-like mentality. I mean, just to survive.
Yeah, Portugal is also kind of like a country club mentality. They also like president and stuff, and they're implemented in Portugal. They call SAD, but it's basically the same system. But what is dangerous is that although it's a business model with owner and everything, you still might be, as you talk about, of course, last year was a success for Botafogo, no doubt about it. But this year, Botafogo has not been good. But the danger is that Botafogo owner John Textor is being known as a guy who doesn't pay other clubs. He goes buy players and then defaults, or wait to go to court to make the payment. So, which is very old kind of mentality of soccer that oh, we want something, we get it, but we don't actually pay for it.
I mean, that's
Corinthians.
Yeah, Jason Warwick, not a fan too of John Texter, calling him a cancer and banish him. Okay.
I get where he's coming from. I really get it. I mean, look at the controversy in Europe between two teams that he owned, Crystal Palace and Lyon. And basically, that one of the clubs has to give their position on a European tournament because of him. And you ask about Jair Bolsonaro. He's at home waiting if he's going to go to prison or not. So
I was going to ask if he was at Disney World.
No. He's in Brazil. He's in Brasilia at his, I guess, home, waiting if he's going to go to actual prison or he's going to be at home arrest. So, and ironically, Bolsonaro was the president that made a law that the soccer teams could have, be transformed to business. So, ironically,
literally, it was illegal to make them into businesses before Bolsonaro.
It wasn't illegal. It was funny that in 1998, there were a law that practically was going to force soccer teams into the 21st century to become a business. And ironically, Rio Branco was one of the teams that stepped out and became a corporation and became a business, SCA. And I'm even investigating more to to see what happened, how it was developed, and how it was dissolved. Because basically, Rio Branco SCA, after I guess 2001 and two, no longer exists, and Rio Branco went back to the old way. But now with this, 2021 law signed by Bolsonaro, it wasn't that it was illegal. Like Red Bull Bragantino came to Brazil before Bolsonaro made it into law. But it was harder. It was kind of more like you had to start from zero to be an owner of a team. You just couldn't go to a team and bought it. Like you had to start from zero, like Red Bull did in the 2010s, 2020s. Like, they literally tried to start from scratch, but saw they were going to be impossible to be in the top of the Brazilian league because it's really, really hard to climb the ladder from the bottom of the state championship all the way to the Brazilian National League. So they went and bought a team that were in the second division nationally and the first division in the state of Sao Paulo, Bragantino, to kind of like do like a shortcut. But now, but this was like a more like, hey, president / informal owner, we'll give you this money and you guys can't do anything with the club. We're going to run the club and then you guys let us do it. They say fine. But at the end of the day, just wrapping up the point of Santos, it feels like Santos really need to go to this model because if things are keep like that, Santos is going to be really hard to be in this like go back and forth first and second division because Santos is not in a big city. Santos is in a city of 500,000 people. So although Santos is a really big team and known worldwide, they're not like in a capital where there's a lot of fans.
Yeah, Jason also pointing out that Red Bull circumvented that same law in Germany with RB. I don't know how you say that. Leipzig. Buying them from the 7th tier or something insane. So,
yeah, but we'll see what's going to happen to Santos if they're going to be relegated or not. If they're relegated, I think then it's going to speed up the process of becoming a business and maybe be purchased. And last but not least, the Brazilian side, Libertadores final set, and guess who's that again? Guess who?
Palmeiras.
Yes, and the other team?
The other team, I'm going to go on a limb and say
Flamengo. Yes, Palmeiras and Flamengo. Again, they I guess not they kind of not long ago they were the last time they faced each other was 2021, but it was inevitable they're gonna make the finals again together because uh, Flamengo made it in 2022 and Palmeiras in 2020. Of course, both have not been in the Libertadores final in the last 2 years, but it was a matter of time. They're going to be back again, colliding in the biggest tournament in South America. Palmeiras did a miracle, winning 4-0 against LDU. And Jason, it's not Flamengo, it's Fluminense, where Thiago Silva is the king. It's not Flamengo. Fluminense that won in 2023 Libertadores. So it's going to be on November 29 in Lima, Peru. There were some calls and some rumors there. Brasilia is going to be the one, the place for the final, but Comebol said no, we're not going to change. It's going to be in Lima, Peru. So I think it's going to be a really good final. I don't have a favorite. There's still 22 days before the finals. So who knows what's going to happen with the players because both of them are also trying to win the Brazilian championship. So they cannot like rest players or something like that. So a lot can happen in 2022.
Best efforts. They cannot pull down. They cannot hold down the Brazilian teams in this.
Yeah.
They cannot stop Brazil.
Yes, and that's become a theme. It's so funny to watch Argentinian sports shows, like Argentinian one take, Argentinian first take, because it's so funny to see them be mad about like we cannot take it anymore. Brazilians in the Libertadores, what we're gonna do? Are we becoming irrelevant in the world stage? Because Argentina in the beginning of the 21st century and all until 2018 was relevant. River and Boca, dominated for some parts of the decade. Boca more in the 2000s, River in the mid 2010s. But since 2019, and River was lost to Flamengo and Boca lost to Fluminense. But outside of that, you've only had Brazilian teams make the final. Not the winner, but both. With Palmeiras Santos, Palmeiras Flamengo, and Botafogo Atlético Mineiro. So it's the fourth Brazilian final in the last 5 years. And
maybe the U.S. in the next battle to Argentina should loan in some players for a chance to make it to the Libertadores finals.
I guess
$1 billion last month.
I guess the Argentinian teams need the money because the economic gap between Brazilian league and Argentinian league are really bad. I mean, literally Brazil, literally a mid to a low for like a team in the mid to lower standings in the Brazilian first division can go to an Argentinian team and buy practically most of the players. I'll say, oh my God, a former Rio Branco player is playing in the second division in the National League. Murilo Câmara. I can't believe it.
I did want to bring up one point of Argentina. Like, if you take away Maradona and Messi, what is their soccer history?
No. They, of course, both of them are legends, but they have some really talent in the 90s and 2000s, like Ariel Ortega, Pablo Aimar, Di Maria. You also had Batistuta, Canija, Martin Palermo. Yeah, Argentina had a lot of good players. Don't get me wrong, but I think right now there's like a drought in terms of good players, and also whoever good players come from Argentina, Brazilian teams can go and get them. So I think if we talk about Brazilians exporting to Europe, Argentina is exporting to Brazil and Europe. So whoever stays are not the best. So I think that's the biggest issue. And also, of course, Brazil right now has the more organized economic teams, especially Palmeiras and Flamengo, who have been dominating. Oh yeah, good. That's a good reminder. Agüero, Zanetti as well. Yeah, two great players. So yeah, so November 29, another all Brazilian Libertadores final, Palmeiras and Flamengo set.
Right. Yeah, and I guess as we transition back to the U.S., just to quickly wrap up soccer, because you reminded me, or at least you made me aware of last week that the MLS is in their playoffs, and I still have not heard a single person in real life mention that these playoffs are happening. I've actually not really seen it at all on social media or anywhere. Like, there's no buzz at all about the MLS playoffs.
I mean, as we discussed, Major League Soccer has literally, went to a cocoon. Like, it's so funny. I don't know if you noticed that when you go to Major League Soccer games and you see those fans, there's a niche. It's kind of like you go to like that obscure band or something that the people is like you. Are you really like it, or you're just really casual and you go once and then you never heard again? Like Major League Soccer, there's no buzz because they cocoon themselves. I see.
Like I've known one person that went to a game this year, and it was to go see Messi play. So I mean, outside of Messi, that's the only draw. And I would
and
still first round too. I mean, because of this best of three thing, like it just still doesn't make sense to me. I mean,
but we have already. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was about to say Philadelphia, New York City FC, Vancouver, LAFC have all won, and the other series are still 1-1. Jason says MLS is like underground music, is a cult following, and that's it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The comparison.
It's just it's just pretty funny to think about that. Whenever I do this podcast, it's like, oh yeah, the MLS playoffs are happening, but then it's like, oh well, okay, and we'll acknowledge it, and it's just they've put themselves in a very bad position. Because let me see, if I wanted to watch Miami versus Nashville, quote unquote, the team I guess I should try to adopt if I were going to follow MLS, I have to get MLS season pass on Apple TV for a knockout game. So in any case, sorry, not going to do it. Like, I mean, I get like doing like a season pass for the regular season, but you have got to make your playoffs more accessible, because otherwise, what are you doing?
Like, I think MLS lost themselves because I think they were in a good track, making their games more available in, ESPN or Fox Sports. So they really want to expand, but then they did a 180 and were like, no, we're going to something really, really niche that like you really have to be a really big fan and pay, a big money.
Right.
So,
and as Jason points out, just go watch the USL. Watch Indy 11, the Chattanooga Red Bulls. It's so much easier to watch USL. Watch much more at USL than I have MLS this year. So, because USL understands one thing: make the game.
Speaking of which, and hopefully Jason is still watching us, because I want to understand something really weird that happened. So North Carolina FC, they finished third, and they're still going to play in the semis in the conference. There were some news of them that they're not going to, come back for next season. And then what I understood, they're going to come back in 2028, but they're going to go back in USL 1, which is the lower division. So from what I understood is that they relegate themselves. Is that it, Jason? If you can help me understand that, because from what I understand, USL pyramid of leagues. You have the USL Championship as like their pro division, and then USL One is kind of like a third division. So basically, they relegate themselves, and they're gonna come back in 2028. So really weird. I normally it was the other way around. For example, Nashville SC stayed a couple of years in the USL, and then they made the transition to Major League Soccer. But this was weird. A team, kind of dissolved and came back in the lower division. So basically, they're like, we cannot afford to play in this division. We're gonna lower ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think too for USL, I mean, I know it's a younger league; they're still establishing themselves, and I think I think they have a lot of momentum, a ton of momentum, But in the process of that, you're going to have some clubs that may not make it as you try to figure out which markets work and which ones don't. And Jason, he says that North Carolina FC folded, the owners sold the rights to someone else. The new owners have more financially feasible to drop the club down. You have Charlotte FC and MLS and Charlotte Independence and USL 1. Just makes more sense for the financial aspect. Indy 11 may also do this because of the stadium situation.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, so I guess that's my understood. Yeah,
But if they're in Raleigh though, the Research Triangle, I mean that's like 3 hours away from Charlotte.
Yeah.
And the Research Triangle is a pretty crowded metro. That's because you got Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill. You could develop a fan base there. And
and also, North Carolina FC was kind of different club. They also had their women's team. They were a little bit like a more kind of upfront team in the South, not only North Carolina, but in the South. So from what I see, also they are struggling to attract fans. So playing the lower division, and also they're going to go full on the North Carolina Courage, which is their National Women's Soccer League team. Because according to one of the owners and the chairman, Steve Malik, they show that this region can take our roots as one of the original places for women's soccer in the world. So I guess also they're going to focus more in the women's side of it. Oh, wow, really? It was so empty. 3 in the 11 supporter outstand their entire crowd on TV. Wow. I guess that's one of the reasons.
Also, I want to say this too. I've noticed a lot more advertising for the NWSL. They're making a very aggressive push. Now, I've never really sat down to watch an NWSL match. I've never really heard anyone talk about the NWSL, but I know that they're making a push.
Yeah, I guess they want to grow the league and try to see if because women's soccer, pro women's soccer should work because America is known for being more women's soccer than men's soccer. Women's soccer dominate in the world stage. They won multiple world soccer, and the men's side is still struggling to pass the quarterfinals in the World Cup. So I guess it makes sense.
Additionally, there's just not as many professional men's sports, right? You got the WNBA, and there's some attempts at trying to get a professional softball league going. Yeah. But this would be the next. The NWSL is probably the second biggest women's league outside the WNBA.
Oh, I guess there's another thing that he mentioned about North Carolina FC that they don't have their own stadium. They play in the NWSL stadium. I guess that makes sense too.
Yeah, so it's going to be fascinating to see how that all plays out in the world of American soccer. And kind of change into that conversation about MLS, about how they've kind of made it incredibly difficult to see their games, see their product on TV. That's just been, I think, right now, one of the big topics across sports right now is the situation that we are seeing right now with YouTube TV versus ESPN. As we speak right now, I'm watching Memphis. Tulane just scored a touchdown to take a 14-7 lead, but I'm having to watch this thing on the ESPN app and not on YouTube TV, because I can't watch ESPN right now on YouTube TV because they have not agreed to an extension. We're a full week into this situation where Google and Disney are having basically a Western style standoff where basically Disney is asking for higher subscriber rates, and Google does not want to pay it. And effectively now what it's caused is, obviously one of the things I've grown to love about having YouTube TV is I can multi-view. I can watch, the games on ESPN and then the games on Fox at the same time. I can't do that now because now I'm having to go back and forth between the apps. And, and obviously that's just more money. Like, I'd have to pay, I think, $8 more to upgrade to this for last week. Obviously, because otherwise I wanted to watch the Vols last week, right? Like, in all the other SEC games, because there was no games worth watching that weren't on the ESPN networks. And it's getting to a point where it's like, okay, how much more are these sports leagues going to ask fans to pay to watch their products, right? Because it's just like, okay, like you look at NBA, right? Like they're asking run some games on Peacock and the games, here and there. And then, of course, NASCAR, right? They have their races on like 5 or 6 different channels now throughout the season. And of course, the NFL with Sunday Ticket and the way that's all going. And now you have this situation with college football where one of the biggest cable providers in YouTube TV, which really kind of built their product around live sports with the multi-view, now you can't even watch the purpose of multi-view because like it doesn't work for the NFL because you only get 2 local channels and you already have NFL Red Zone. So like I don't need multi-view for the NFL because I just let Scott Hansen do it for me on Sundays. But this, and especially with inflation and how budgets are getting tighter and tighter, at some point, right? Who's going to step in and protect consumers here? Someone, because at the end of the day, right? Like every dollar matters, and the fact that we have people, paying for a monthly subscription to YouTube TV, and a lot of these people, especially this time of year, especially in the South, in my part of the country, are paying for it so they can watch SEC football, and now they can't even watch it because Google and Disney can't come to an agreement.
And
The thing about Google and Disney is these are both multi-billion-dollar corporations. What if Google had to pay a higher fee? I mean, at the end of the day, like they could absorb the loss. Disney could absorb their losses, but they have decided that they're not going to. And it seems like Disney's doing this to try to get people to go into ESPN Unlimited. Now, Jason, brings up a good point saying the consumer selling the highest fees will force the companies to listen. And, there is a fair bit of that that's going on. More and more of that's going on. Of course, it's not the easiest thing to do, but it is doable. I'm certainly not going to tell you how to do it here, but you can find out.
yeah, or even I don't know if there's something like that in America, but Brazil is very popular. We call IPTV. We call little box. Like in a lot of households in Brazil, there's people that have those. They buy it. They have every channel. Like my dad has one of those in America, and he can watch all the games he wants, from Brazilian soccer to college football to whatever he wants. Yeah, Jason too. Like he's familiar with that box. Yeah, and I guess a lot of Americans are going to as well.
I think my dad's boss has that box because I think he was showing. We went to a 4th of July thing at his condo one time, and he was showing us this box. It has like hundreds of channels on it, so I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and I guess American companies alongside with the government are going to try to crack down those. But at the end of the day, it's not the consumer fault. It's those companies that they think that they're going to be loyal to our product, but they're loyal to the sport. But being loyal to the sport right now makes you broke because the leagues want to, especially, and Clay Travis said something that is very interesting. Sports fans had really good 10 years ago, especially in the United States of America, with with cable, because basically they could pay a reasonable amount of money each month and get all the channels from regional sports networks to ESPN to Fox Sports, and basically watch all the games with a reasonable monthly subscription, because a lot other people were buying cable as well with sports packages, but not necessarily watching. Maybe it's a grandma that wants to watch Christian channels and conservative news, or it's someone that wants to have.
I would argue though, outside of live events, there's not really much of a reason to have cable event TV. Like I only really watch cable for live TV for sports. And okay, selfishly also keep it for local news. But that's just a selfish pitch for me. But otherwise, like Jason makes a good point. Well, consumers are no longer loyal to anything other than their wallets. Money is just too tight. But like you brought up the example, the grandma with who may watch a Christian channel. There are thousands of Christian YouTube channels, like lots of content out there. Or like there's tons of conservative news outlets, liberal news outlets that are on YouTube, and those platforms get more viewers these days than cable news networks. Like more people flock to like places like the Daily Wire or like someone like a Hassan Piker than they do like a CNN or an SMNBC or Fox News, just because those are where people are going out to discuss content, and you can debate content in real time with other chatters. Really, the only thing that like a YouTube TV has is sports, and right now I can't watch Tennessee sports on YouTube TV. So, what value does that give me? None at this point,
And at the end of the day, this will hurt in the long run. Especially, I think the leagues that are really getting screwed by this are the NBA and the NHL. They have more, or even the MLB, that really relies on those packages of like regional sports networks, or to try to sell their product. And
right? Like, for me, like I can't really. I have to pay like $20 a month right now on top of what we're doing already to legally watch the Atlanta Braves, and we're just not going to do that.
Yeah, so it's an interesting trend. Brazil kind of is in the same direction. Less so, because the only, I say, player in this business in Brazil that really is kind of hard to watch is Amazon Prime, to be honest, though, because Global is a public channel. You have, of course, the Premiere, which is the pay-per-view of games. But outside of that, you still have games on like the NFL, But one thing I want to ask you, Nick, do you think with all this difficulty to watch your games, do you think old habits like listen on the radio can be back?
I mean, they could be back to a certain extent. Now, the issue is if you're following on social media and you're listening on like iHeartRadio, like iHeartRadio has a bit of a time delay. So, because I've tried to like sync up my keep to the game, and it's impossible. At least through iHeartRadio, it's impossible. So I don't know if it's necessarily going to come back. And plus, I think because of the fact you can sail the high seas, you can find a way. Like just go on YouTube tomorrow afternoon and look up for just any random game that you may want to watch tomorrow. You'll probably will find something there. I'm not telling you should do that. I'm just telling you can find that.
Yeah, like in the WhatsApp group that I am in that talks about college football, there's a list of links on YouTube of games. I always find things astonishing about that.
Right, and one stream will go down and then it just comes right back. Jason says iHeart Radio synced the Pacers finals broadcast perfectly with my over-the-air signal. I canceled Doris Burke all series. Now that, because I remember you doing that, Jason, and that was definitely the way to go. Because man, I really wish that TNT would. Well, I guess TNT doesn't do it anymore, but I wish we could get a different broadcast that wasn't the the ESPN broadcast. But in any case, that's who the NBA has decided to stick us with.
But yeah, at the end of the day, the people going to be hurt the most are sports fans that right now feel betrayed. Especially, I think, Nick, are the tailgaters because this year I went to an LSU game, and of course I noticed that on the Tennessee games. A lot of people that have YouTube TV are tailgaters that put YouTube TV so they can multi-view other games or they can enjoy the experience. They also got screwed over.
Oh, 100%. It makes things much, much more complicated. So, in any case, that's the world we live in. And hopefully one of these days we'll have a more sensible way of watching sports that isn't just completely fragmented. But I have a feeling it's only going to get more convoluted before it gets better. In any case, let's actually get into some sports here. And before we get into some college football, we got to take a step back and recap what was an insane World Series finish. I mean, 74 innings, Gus, this series took to decide a winner. And, man, wasn't it a classic finish? And the Dodgers, there were about 3 or 4 plays they had to make in the waning stretches of Game 7 to get the win, and they were able to make every single one between the home run in the top of the 9th, between the miracle catch in the bottom of the 9th, which Will Smith's go ahead in the top of the 11th. Then it's just so many small moments, and it reminds you why when the stakes are insanely high, why baseball is as good as any other sport.
I feel like the Dodgers, this World Series, all the players that needed to step up did, from Freddie Freeman to Miguel Rojas to Will Smith to Shohei Ohtani to Yoshimoto. I mean, all those players needed to show up in an exact moment, and they did. And it's a team that was destined to win. I was rooting for the Blue Jays because they were more like a team, the more developed team than a team that were made with money. But at the end of the day, the players that needed to show up did with LA.
Well, one thing I do want to say, too, is I think also the series shows, and I've been obviously vocal about how I'm not a huge fan of how imbalanced some of the rosters are in the MLB in terms of spending and all that stuff. But it does go to show the Dodgers are not invincible. Like the Blue Jays had multiple chances to win this series, numerous chances, and you have to give credit to the Dodgers. It doesn't matter how much you're getting paid in Game 7 of the World Series, right? Like, it all comes down to the execution. And it was this close, this much, that determined the end of the series. And, for the Blue Jays, I mean, that's going to be a hard one for them to come back from, I feel like, at least emotionally.
Yeah. I feel like the Dodgers' experience and the players' maturism show up.
Right. And now, we're back to back, and you have to wonder how long can the Los Angeles Dodgers keep up this particular run that they are. Jason points out the Mets are living proof you can't buy a championship. But you still got to run your ball club the right way.
And I agree with you, Jason, because at the end of the day, it's not how much you spend, it's how good you spend, how great you can find talent elsewhere or overseas, or even, because it still baffles me. Like, of course, Shohei Ohtani is a legend, but he played alongside another legend, Mike Trout, and they even came close to win a playoff game.
Right, because baseball is more than just a few people. Like, if you put Shohei Ohtani on like the Oakland A's, they aren't going to do it. Well, the West Sacramento A's. Like, let me rephrase that. Like they aren't winning the World Series, because it's just it's all about those pieces. It's about how all these pieces come together. Or like how the Braves are a counterexample of like how the Braves won the World Series when Ronald Acuna was out for the season. And so like it's the least about individual players, but it's still good, I think, for the MLB to have genuine superstars again. And then this had, I believe, over 50 million viewers by the end of Game 7. And it's fascinating how it feels like this is allowing for a little bit. It feels like there's almost a little bit of a resurgence in baseball popularity.
Oh yeah, because baseball has been a competitive, fearless sport. Oh, the Dodgers are dominating. When the Yankees were dominating in the late '90s, nobody turned off the TV because when the Empire rise up, people want to see the Empire take down.
Oh, what? Yeah, absolutely. And plus, you're seeing the top players, and you're seeing someone like Shohei Ohtani who's doing stuff that we really haven't seen before in the modern years. And plus, also, I think too what we're seeing, especially with obviously Ohtani and Yashimoto, is the rise of Japan becoming a new pipeline for players. I know I've seen at least 3 or 4 different players from Japan have been signed over the past couple of days. Like definitely, I think Japan is the new Dominican Republic. The new Venezuela. Like, I mean, Japan is a place where people are going to go to get pro ready players.
Yeah,
I know it's but it's really, I think, going to be like that. Jason said, "Did y'all see the Japanese Adam Dunn get posted today?" And I believe I forget what his name is, but I know who you're talking about. That's why I brought up that point. So Japan for sure. Manuka Taka Murakami. So I'm not. I'll be very real. I'm not familiar at all with who that is, but I'll take your word that he's like Adam Dunn. And I just hope that other teams outside of the Los Angeles Dodgers get one of these Japanese players. Like I need my Atlanta Braves to get 1 or 2 of these Japanese players. Like we need some juice in Atlanta. That's for sure.
And it's so funny how Major League Baseball is not shy or not afraid to find talent elsewhere, and how they are realizing that the more the sport develop overseas, the better the league benefits from. And it's so funny. That's why the NFL really wants to grow their sport in the world stage, because they know how NBA and Major League Baseball benefited from their sport being more played in the world stage. For example, in Europe for basketball, and Latin America and Asia for baseball. That at the end there were that players development and ended up being crucial, because now MLB is going to face something the NBA has been facing for the last few years, I think, which is now the face of the leagues are not American. And from one side, it's good to have those players shining if you're winning, but if you want to, make your league more popular in America, it's hard to, sell that to an American fan when in baseball the faces of the league are Asian and Japanese, and in NBA they're more connected to Europe.
Well, see, I think I'll actually kind of slightly disagree here, and here's why. I think when it comes to the NBA, people are more attached to stars, right? People root for Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, more so than they do team. No, like Jason is an exception to this rule, right? Like obviously diehard Indiana Pacers fans, and there certainly are diehard fans of every individual franchise in the NBA. But I'd be willing to say that most NBA watchers are casually following certain players. And that's why, when Giannis inevitably leaves the Milwaukee Bucks, no one's going to care about Milwaukee. They care about Giannis. Or when Luka left Dallas, did you hear anyone talk about the Dallas Mavericks anymore? No, because people wanted to watch Luka play. Like, when I think of the San Antonio Spurs, mentally all I think about is, I want to watch Wemby play. I don't think about the San Antonio Spurs. I think about Wemby. You can't really do that with baseball, right? Because, baseball teams tend to be much more regionally aligned, right? Like, if you're from Boston, like, being a Red Sox fan is a way of life, or being from LA, a Dodgers fan is a way of life, or being from the South, like I am, and being an Atlanta Braves fan is a way of life. Like, it's much more, or like from the Midwest, many of those folks are Cubs fans. I know, Jason, you chose the White Sox, but hey, the Cubs are by far the most popular team in the Midwest. Or if you're from like the St. Louis area, that's, the Cardinals. But like those teams, baseball is just so different, right? Because when you tune into an NBA game, right? Like, and you see the San Antonio Spurs, there's a 90% chance Wemby's on that floor playing at that very moment. Like, you could tune into the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you might have to wait for innings for Shohei Ohtani to show up, to come out to bat if he's not pitching that night. So I think that MLB will be 100% able to sustain this because people are much more team-oriented in baseball, because you have to be more team-oriented in baseball. Well, in the NBA, it is so individualistic that right now, like the time that we're in, where the NBA truly is kind of lacking a true face of the league to transition to. That's why the NBA is struggling a bit, especially domestically, because Americans don't have, like, who is the next great American star after LeBron James? I can't really answer that right now.
Yeah, so one of the challenges that the NBA is facing for the future, and baseball is in a crossroads, because there's still a lot of talented American baseball players. Don't get me wrong. Look at this LA roster without Will Smith, Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts. They couldn't win. So I guess now the question is, can the Dodgers repeat the Yankees in the late 90s and go for a three-peat?
Yeah. I mean, and that'll be the question. It's going to be hard. It's going to be very hard for them to do it, but they've got to be the favorites to do it.
Yeah. And Jason says that he knows Will Smith, the GOAT.
Yeah. All right. So that is some World Series talks. Congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers on a back-to-back championship. Approaching the 1 hour mark of Two Countries, Two Americas, all sports. All right, so let's get into some college football here. Week 11, and right now, great back and forth shootout between Tulane and Memphis. It's about to be 21-14 Green Wave in that game, a pivotal game in the American Conference. Right now, Memphis would be the G5 team that would be in the playoffs. And we'll definitely talk about the CFB rankings here in just a moment. But let's kind of recap some of the games last week.
I put it in an Ivy League showdown between Harvard and Columbia. And Harvard are winning 31-6. They're ranked number 13 in the FCS.
Yeah, and Ivy League can actually be in the playoffs now, too, in the FCS. So we'll actually should see like a Harvard in the FCS, because for a long time, the Ivy League will not allow their teams to be in the playoffs, which was super wild.
So if Harvard wins the FCS, they will be the first program to win an FBS and an FCS championship in football?
I'm not sure, but I feel like that would be correct.
Yeah, because they won when they won back in the late 1800s, early 1900s, was still the FBS. They still have some college football top division championships, right?
Well, see, and that's where it gets tricky, because do those titles really count as FBS? Because the college football back then is not the college football that we have today, but I would guess so. And I mean, certainly this would be the first time they're playing for a true national title in quite some time. So, in any case, you know, I'm assuming because I know usually Harvard and Yale are usually fighting for the Ivy League championships. Let me pull up the FCS standings here for the Ivy League. And to be fair, I'll be honest, I have not followed Ivy League football.
Yeah, I'm sorry to bring up this topic, but they're ranked, they're undefeated, and it will be historical if they win in the FBS, and with of course they won.
Look, hey, I've got a friend that goes to Harvard Medical School, so I'm rooting for Harvard to get that done, especially when they play Yale at the end of the year in that big rivalry game that they have up there. Let's kind of bring it back here to Tennessee because not gonna lie, guys, we had a bit of a deflating loss last Saturday night against Oklahoma by a score of 33-31.
Which let's be honest, it really closed the door for the playoffs.
Oh,
let's be real.
Yeah, we needed to win out, and it just didn't happen. And we have to be real here. Yes, you got to give credit to Oklahoma for winning the football game, for doing what they needed to do. But let's be real here. Tennessee imploded, especially on offense. Like that was, I'll be honest. That was probably, well, I'm not going to say the most disappointing Heupel performance because 2023 Florida is still the most disappointing Heupel performance. But this one was probably the most frustrating game in the Heupel tenure, at least one of the most frustrating because it felt like Tennessee was the better team here. Like we were moving the ball fairly well, but we just could not get out of our own way at all. Like we had 3 first half turnovers. The first one was a scoop and score on a strip sack because David Sanders completely missed his assignment. That led to R. Mason Thomas returning it back for a touchdown. He's probably now out for the rest of the year. So, which sucks for him because he's a great player for Oklahoma on their front seven. And I think he'll have a really nice NFL career. So obviously that kind of – because we were up 7-0. We had stopped their offense. We were driving. We were about to get up 14-0. And from there, it just became like – basically it was like banging your head into a cinder block wall because we would do some good things – we got up, I believe it was 13-7, no, 10-7. That's what we got up. And, I remember sitting watching this game half over the second quarter. We were up by 150 yards in total yards. We had a 240 yards to their 80. And we were only up by 3. And I remember thinking, this isn't good. This is not the situation I would like to be in because I've seen this movie before. And unfortunately, whenever you let a team hang around like that, you tend to find ways to get beat. And unfortunately, in this game, Joey Aguilar had, I think, the game we all feared he could have, right? We certainly had but in the preseason, when we watched the tape last year against Clemson, we had concerns that he could be turnover prone because he had a lot of interceptions in his previous 2 years at Appalachian State. And really up to this game, he had done a really decent job of protecting the football outside of the pick 6 in the Alabama game, which was truly his one massive mistake he had made up to this point. This game was just, I don't even know if I should really blame it on Joey or play calling, but I think a mix of both led to the disasters that we saw. When you look at the way Oklahoma's defense was playing us, they were clearly playing to take away the run because we could not run the ball in this game at all. We only rushed for 63 yards, which for a Josh Heupel offense is terrible. And you got to give massive credit to Oklahoma, but man, only rushing for 63 yards is almost unboundable in this offense. This offense almost guarantees you get into triple digits in rushing attack. It just, and of course, puts us in a situation where we had to throw to win. But even then, right, if the run game isn't working, right, you can throw a lot of shorter passes, find ways to kind of stretch out the defense a little bit. And Oklahoma was giving us a lot of short passes, a lot of like passes within 5-10 yards. But at some point, we decided for no reason just to start airing it out downfield, just taking all these shots. And we had 2 interceptions happen because of that. And then I think the real like sequence of events that really doomed us. So we had gotten up 17-16 in the third quarter. Oklahoma, it wasn't Material, Xavier Robertson, he fumbled in the red zone. So we get the ball, and this is the moment where you probably should be aggressive, right? You've got the crowd on your side. Everyone's feeling good. Let's go and take control of this game. We run it 2 straight times. Okay. It's 3rd and 2. And, honestly, I don't even mind if you run it again here. What I don't like is calling a designed quarterback run into the teeth of the defense, which is Oklahoma's strength as a team, which leads to a 3 and out. We have to punt back to Oklahoma. They go down and score. So we get the ball back. We run I think an incomplete pass and another run. So it's 3rd and 6. It's okay. You have to get 6 yards. So why do we throw it downfield into double coverage? Like, we need to be focused on getting first downs. You're like, Oklahoma's a very, very good defense. We need to focus on what they're giving us. And we were trying to be insanely too aggressive throughout this game, which really, I think, put Joey Aguilar in a position where he just felt like he had to go into hero mode, and it ended in complete disaster. I can't even be mad at the defense here. The defense only let up 1 true touchdown drive in this game. Now, the defense did their job in this game. The offense let us down. And frankly, and let's be honest, for as much as I've complained about the defense this year, especially the secondary, the defense, when you look at them against like Mississippi State, for example, like they scored 2 touchdowns in that game. The offense really didn't do much of anything there either. This offense, I mean, yes, at times this year, the offense has looked way better than it did last year, especially from the passing game, because we all know last year how frustrating our offense was, even as we were making the playoffs. And, we know why the offense at times, why the offense at times looks bad. We all know what happened in April, right? Like with Nico leaving and then having to go out and get a different quarterback at the last second. Like, I think anyone who expected the offense to look perfect was deluding themselves. And, at times this offense made it feel like, oh, this offense is better than it was. And, look at what they did against Georgia. I mean, that Georgia game was magnificent. But as I think I found out since, Georgia just doesn't have a good defense this year. And I think, the conversation that has started after this game is about Josh Heupel himself, right? There are some fringe fans who think that he has peaked at Tennessee and that the ball should look elsewhere.
Are you nuts? Really?
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the current scenario. Look how many teams are trying to find their perfect head coach. Look how many teams. Like only the SEC, LSU, Auburn, Arkansas,
and Florida.
4. So you really want to compete with those 4 SEC schools? I'm not even counting Penn State.
And UCLA and Virginia Tech. And, the list keeps on going on and on and on. Look, am I pleased with the coaching job of Josh Heupel this year? For the most part, I think it's been good. I think it's left some stuff to be desired. I think he has made some critical game management mistakes. Particularly when you go back to the Mississippi State game where we got the ball back in a tied game with 2 minutes left. We just sat on it and went to overtime. I was furious when that happened. And if we had lost that game, I really would have been upset with that decision. We got away with that. In this game, the decision to run it 3 straight times after the turnover, which is the exact same decision that was made in the Georgia game after a major turnover there. the way the timeouts were used down the stretch in the first half of the Alabama game, which led us to the pick six. Heupel's made some game management mistakes. Like he's not perfect. Like he is a human. All coaches make mistakes, and Heupel has certainly made some mistakes this year. I do think the question has to be for him because it's still, from our understanding, he still calls the plays. I think Heupel should really consider giving up play calling because I think if he's going to keep play calling, he needs to get someone who will help him in game management because that is his obvious weakness. He's a very, very good recruiter. He's a very, very good coach. He's great at leading this program and helping stabilize us, right? Like, because like a lot of Tennessee fans are disappointed with how the season has gone. We're still 6-3. Like there were years where we were begging to get the 6 wins, Like I remember not making a bowl game for like 3 years in a row. I'm not going to be mad, I'm not going to apologize for having winning records. And, obviously we're going to play New Mexico State next week and we'll get our 7th win and, whatever. But I do think that if Heupel is ever going to be a championship coach, and I don't know if he's truly ever going to be, because I feel like we've had this debate for a while over whether or not Heupel is more like Mark Richt or Kirby Smart, right? Like Mark Richt rebuilt Georgia to a very competitive level, but he never was good enough to win a championship, and they fired him eventually to replace him with Kirby Smart, who has won national championships. And there's I think some people who are thinking in the fan base, oh, maybe this is now the time where we get rid of Heupel to find our Kirby Smart. But I don't know who that is. I don't know who that would be. I just know that I think calling for Heupel's head right now doesn't make a whole lot of sense because even with the way that the Oklahoma game went, we've only really been blown out once this year, right? Like, and the Oklahoma Georgia games came down to a couple of plays. Sometimes that happens when we're playing really good teams. And we have to remember heading into this season, our quarterback literally ditched us the day before the spring game. There's not a lot of teams that can really recover from that. And also, what a lot of teams can't really recover from is their top 2 corners, including a first-round draft pick and Jamar McCoy not returning, not being available for the entire season. At this point, they're not going to return. Like, if you're Jamar McCoy, why in the world would you play this year? I mean, there's just no reason for him to play at this point. So, a lot of teams are not going to be able to withstand that, truthfully. Now, I will say this. I do think it is fair to question whether or not we should change some position coaches. For one, I've been less than impressed for a couple of years now, our offensive line. I think we would be best advised looking for a new offensive line coach. Nothing really against Glenn Ellerby. I'm not impressed with the O-line. Specifically, that first touchdown was directly because of a missed assignment. And O-line has not been good for years at this point, especially in pass blocking. Also, the secondary, Willie Martinez, it's just bad. It's very bad. And I know what I just said about the 2 corners. It's still bad. It's not acceptable. So I personally, if I were in charge, I would replace those two particular position coaches. Is what I would replace. I wouldn't fire Tim Banks because he just put an elite defense on the field last year, and he's not playing with a full deck this year. And to be fair, it has not been his fault it wasn't his fault that we lost Saturday. So I wouldn't fire Tim Banks. But at the end of the year, I do think if we have to sit back and wonder if this was just the last year when Nico left, because I don't know how much better Nico would have been for this team. But it sure feels like that Tennessee was put into a weird position this year. And we're just waiting on – because, next year we have the number 1 quarterback in next year's class coming in, Faison Brandon. We have the number 1 receiver in Tristan Keys, a lot of other very talented players coming into this class. And we all know the transfer portal is going to open. I'm sure we're going to get some dudes out of that. So I really do anticipate our team probably being better next year than this year. It just feels like that it was just going to be really hard for us to replicate last year. And I think we all have to kind of look at this year as it was a transition year. So I know, Gus, I went on there for a minute. So kind of what are your thoughts?
Okay. No, I've been saying for a couple of weeks that Tennessee 2025 season is a transition year, kind of like 2023, especially the way Tennessee played at Neyland Stadium against Oklahoma. And, very disappointing, especially in the second half. And again, the focus on this year is to see if Tim Banks is really your coordinator or not and prepare for next season.
Yeah, and like as Jason said, we got to hammer the portal and let it ride. And what I'm curious now is who is going to be our quarterback? Because I mean, Joey is not going to return next year. I mean, this is his one and only year. I don't know if we turn over the reins over to like a George McIntyre or to why am I blanking on our other quarterback? Jeez, Merklinger. Or if you go into the portal again, and of course this time you'll have all offseason to actually look for a quarterback. If you don't think Frazier Brandon is the guy immediately, and there's some that I've seen that think that Brandon could be the guy immediately. I would rather not roll in the next year with a true freshman quarterback personally. I don't think that would be wise. But hey, we'll see what happens. And I will maintain this as well. As bad as Joey played on Saturday night, this does not diminish in any way how much I appreciate what he has done this year for Tennessee. Coming in at the very last second, and he's played above and beyond what I expected him to play, and even with a bad game Saturday, I still want him to. I think he should still be remembered favorably by Tennessee fans. And let's just say this, right? Like, okay, we're not competing for a national title. We still have stuff to play for this year, right? Obviously, you go to New Mexico State next week. It's homecoming, whatever. Just get through that game. Look, the Florida game in 3 weeks is how this season is going to be remembered at this point, right? Like, we have not beaten Florida in the swamp in 22 years. I think if this team can go and do that, if they can find a way to win in Florida, and Florida does not have a head coach right now, guys, okay? You guys should go and do that. You guys need to do that. For me, as someone who's watched this team since 2006, I need you to beat Florida in the swamp.
Yeah, I think that's the goal of the season.
If we don't win that game, this is going to be a long, long off season. And, a loss to them will not make me necessarily call for Heupel's head, but I will honestly start losing a little bit of confidence if we don't win in Florida. I'm just going to be honest with you. We have to find a way to win that game. And of course, you got Vandy at the end of the year, and Vandy is, assuming they beat both Kentucky and Auburn, which I think they're going to do, they're going to be coming into Neyland 9-2 with a chance to probably go to the playoffs, and we would have a chance to deny them. So it would be amazing if we could win in the swamp for the first time in 20-plus years and then deny Vandy playoff chances. And that would put us at 9-3 for the year. And I think, with all things considered, that would not be a bad season. So this team, I just hope with this bye week they have this week, they kind of gather around and they're like, look, we can't I know we can't make the playoffs at this point. Well, I mean, that's not necessarily true, but I mean, it's likely, not likely. But this team still has a chance. Like, if they can go out and win these last couple of games, I think this fan base will remember this team favorably. And then a lot of it will be just what ifs. Like, what if Max Gilbert makes the kick against Georgia? Then you make the playoffs. But even if that had happened, like, let's be real, this team was never winning a national title. So in the case, like, I think missing the playoffs this year is not the worst thing in the world. And as Jason Warwick mentions, Josh Heupel must shed the Charity FC allegations against Florida. And I feel like we might have lost Gus. I don't know if he's still there.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. So you mentioned Josh Heupel must shed the Charity FC allegations against Florida. I'm gonna say, like, Josh, if you come across as, you have to be Florida. You do not want to see what happens if you lose at Florida without a head coach.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a game that will save Tennessee's season, especially the way they lost to Georgia and Alabama. So win against Florida will definitely seal a season that definitely was with a lot of struggles, but win over Florida will make at least memorable to win in a swamp.
100%. I mean, even despite this, at least we're not Auburn. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Like, Auburn.
What a terrible football game between Kentucky and Auburn. Jesus Christ.
We scored 56 points 2 weeks ago against Kentucky. Auburn comes back the next week and can't score a touchdown against Kentucky, losing 10-3. They're getting booed off the field, and of course, Hugh Freeze is fired. He only finished 6-16 in conference play at Auburn. I think it's a combination of his failure of one. It does feel like his scheme is a bit outdated, that it doesn't really work anymore. Like everyone does the RPOs now, and he doesn't really have a second trick. And two, his quarterback selections were always garbage. Like, why did he go with Peyton Thorne last year? Why did he go with Jackson Arnold this year? His decision-making at the quarterback position never made sense, despite the talent that they have. Like, Auburn has a ton of talent. I mean, do you realize that Auburn is one of 3 teams in the entire country that have not given up more than 24 points in a game? They literally have one of the best defenses in the country, and no one knows about it because their offense is dog crap. Like, they're terrible. And it is insane just how incompetent Auburn football has become. Like, Auburn used to be a decent program that won 8 to 9 games a year, and then they would have a popular, like when they had Cam Newton win the national title. 2013 have a miracle run to the national championship game. But since 2017, the last time they made the SEC championship, they have kind of faded into irrelevance. And Auburn right now reminds me of where Tennessee was a decade ago. Like, Auburn and Tennessee have switched places. Like, Tennessee now is a program with like the 8-9 game minimum win floor. But when you have special players, special teams, that's when they can make the playoffs. Auburn has to find a way to get back there. And right now, like when you look at them in the pecking order, we're talking about all those SEC jobs that are open, right? Like LSU and Florida are ahead of Auburn. Definitely, I would say. Now, I think Auburn and Arkansas are close.
And to me, Nick, what is interesting about that discussion, are we in a drought of really, really good coordinators to be considered for a head coaching job? Because I haven't heard any coordinator to be rumored with any of those openings.
Well, I do think, too, at the highest levels of college football, I think there's a lot of pressure to go and get a head coach. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean the case, right? Like Kirby Smart was a DC before he went to Georgia. Dan Lanning was a DC before he went to Oregon. You know, like you can go and get a great coordinator. But I do think there's a ton of pressure to go and get a head coach. And for Auburn, like I don't even know who you get. I mean, there's so many openings. I don't really know who's going to get who until the pieces start falling, the domino pieces start falling. But I mean, where would you rank Auburn in the pecking order right now? The 4 jobs that are open, because arguably they might be below Arkansas, because Arkansas has a lot of NIL support, and Arkansas doesn't have to be the little brother in their own state. Like Arkansas isn't the main show in Arkansas. Auburn is never going to be the main show in their own state because Alabama is just bigger and better. And you're also dealing with Georgia, too, as your arch rival. Arkansas doesn't have to deal with that. And plus, Arkansas has Walmart and Tyson Foods and J.B. Hunt. Honestly, I would probably rather want the Arkansas job than the Auburn job.
Yeah, and the pressure down in Arkansas is way less than Auburn, as you point out perfectly, because Auburn has always the kind of like, we need to at least be relevant and win the Iron Bowl or somewhat be better than Alabama. Since the Ken Newton days, University of Alabama has been running the show in the state. But at the end of the day, I think it's gonna wait until the off season to find their coaches like Auburn and the other ones.
Yeah, they're down bad for sure. Also down bad, Gus, is Mario Cristobal. in the Miami Hurricanes as they lost to SMU. Like, how does this keep happening, Gus? Like, Miami was by far the most talented team in the ACC this year, and they have blown it again. This is mind-boggling. Like, Mario Cristobal gets these amazing recruiting classes. They come out, beat Notre Dame, look like one of the top teams in the country, and have completely blundered him. And lost at home to Louisville, and a loss on the road here to SMU. And in both games, the common denominator was Carson Beck turning into a turnover machine, which he was at times last year at Georgia. For Miami, I mean, it's just unacceptable. Like, frankly, if I was the Hurricanes, I would fire Cristobal. I really would, because if you're Miami, there is no excuse why last year's team nor this year's team didn't win the ACC. You were easily the best team in your conference, and you have blown into the likes of Georgia Tech, of Syracuse, of Louisville this year, and SMU now. Like, you had no business losing any of those football games. And for Mario Cristobal, like, it's an indictment. Like, if we thought what James Franklin at Penn State was doing was bad enough for him to get fired, like, what Mario Cristobal has done at Miami is worse. And frankly, the waste of talent is – I haven't seen this big of a waste of talent since Butch Jones at Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Butch Jones was a great recruiter, but he wasted a lot of talent.
Yeah, that's exactly like Mario Cristobal is Cuban Butch Jones.
Oh, yeah.
I will never take him seriously as a legit title contender, ever.
Like, look at this roster and look how they were supposed to dominate the ACC, but definitely it's not going to happen.
Yeah, just absolute shame, just insane. And if I were a Miami fan, I would be sick. Of course, Jason says, "Go MF Cards, baby!" And of course, Louisville is in the playoff chase. So if Tennessee can't make it, I'm rooting for Louisville to make it. That's for sure. So let's pull up the playoff rankings here. The first ones came out this week, and at the very top, Gus, we've got the Ohio State Buckeyes at number 1, Indiana at number 2, Texas A&M 3, Bama 4, Georgia 5. And you got to remember this year, when it comes to seeding, we're no longer doing it by the whole conference champions deal. Like, the situation last year, they gave us both Boise State and Arizona State getting a bye, and led to Tennessee going to Ohio State. So, of course, once they actually fix the format, Tennessee isn't going to make it, but go figure. So right now, and I want to, because I know there is I'm going to pull up this bracket here so you can see what this would look like. But I'm pulling this up now. Share this tab. So here's how it would look right now. So, of course, you'd have Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, and Alabama would be your top 4 seeds. Then you would have Georgia, Ole Miss, BYU, and Texas Tech would all be your 4 hosts. Then Oregon would go to Texas Tech. Notre Dame would go to BYU, and Notre Dame would be the last at-large team, which I think that's another discussion. Should Notre Dame even be here at 10? Then you have Virginia, who would be there as the ACC champion. And then you would have Memphis as your G5 team. Now, I do want to mention that right now, Memphis is trailing at home 28-17 to Tulane. So that if they lose that game, Memphis, like Tulane, would probably take their spot, or South Florida. Basically, this is going to be whoever wins the American Conference will be the 12th seed. I don't see Boise State is not good this year. It'll be whoever wins the American. So, Gus, just kind of, what's your initial reaction to these rankings?
I think it was a fair ranking. Of course, Indiana number 2 is still astonishing, but that's the new reality. Ohio State feels so hidden. They're the number 1 team in the playoffs again, and there's no buzz, no talk, nothing.
Well, they haven't played anyone since week 1. They played Penn State last week, but of course, since they collapsed, no one watched them. Really, no one's going to talk about Ohio State until they play Michigan. at the end of the year. And of course, we all know how massive of a game that is for Ryan Day. And he needs to find a way to beat Michigan. But for Ohio State and Indiana, both of these teams should meet each other undefeated in the Big Ten title game, I think. Also, Texas. It feels like to me Texas A&M is quiet too. And maybe internally, I'm still not taking A&M as seriously as I should. But I think the way they came out and blew out LSU a few weeks ago, I think that shows that they are a serious contender.
Yeah, I think, and then it's still hard to really see who is the contender, who's the pretender, especially in the 8 to 12 seed. But again, look how the SEC dominates. You have Alabama, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss is almost like a 1/4 of a team are from the SEC, and I think it's going to be more.
Yeah. And just right now, and I'll just give you a guess what I think would happen right now. And this happens, so I would pick Oregon over Texas Tech. I would pick Notre Dame over BYU. I'd pick Ole Miss over Virginia. I'd pick Georgia over Memphis. So I would pick Ohio State over Oregon. I think Georgia would win a rematch over Alabama. I think A&M.
I mean, it depends where the game's going to be played.
Yeah, that's always the question. I have A&M over Ole Miss. I have Indiana over Notre Dame. And then for me, I would have Ohio State over Georgia. And frankly, I'd pick Indiana over A&M and then probably Ohio State over Indiana for a championship right now.
I will pick Georgia and Oregon. And I think Oregon's going to revenge last season eliminated Ohio State. Georgia beat Alabama. And on the other side, I think it's going to be the Indiana Derby again, Notre Dame, Indiana, and Texas A&M Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I do think this Indiana team is better than last year. I think they're a lot better than last year's team. So, in any case, we'll see what happens with the playoffs. Now, we got to get into this week, Gus. Where we have and just other takeaways from last week. I think the one big takeaway is Georgia is going to lose more games. Georgia is skating on such thin ice right now. They keep on they get away with some of the craziest things. They should have 3 or 4 losses this year. Florida, that. I don't know if you saw the end of the Florida game, Gus, but there was literally a catch downfield. It looked like Florida had caught the ball, but they ruled it incomplete. And I still don't know how it was an incomplete catch. I think Florida got robbed at the end of that game. It's hard for me to come out and defend Florida, but they got robbed. So Georgia just continues to get lucky and lucky and lucky. And I'll just go ahead and say it, Gus. I know I usually leave upset alert for the end. I'm going to take, and this might be a crazy prediction. I'm probably going to be wrong. Give me Mississippi State over Georgia tomorrow in Starkville. It's time. Mississippi State has been close all year to pulling off a massive win. Arizona State.
Yeah, I think definitely Mississippi State has improved a lot from last year. They have been a team that has been really close. So also, kind of Georgia has been downgrading every game, So I can see another upset.
Yeah, I think it's time. It's time for Mississippi State to finally cash in on one of these upsets. And it's time for Georgia to finally pay the piper. Give me Mississippi State. Okay, in terms of underrated games for this week, there's 2 that I chose. One, we have LSU at number 4 Alabama, which is insane that that's not one of the 5 games we're picking, but it just goes to the LSU is kind of falling off. I mean, the question is here, what type of does LSU get a new coach bounce here? How hard does LSU come out and play? But to me, a night game in Tuscaloosa, it just feels like Bama's going to roll here.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Bama found the rhythm. Kellen DeBoer having a great season. So I'm picking Bama.
Yeah, and also, I just want to pick this one because I found this one funny. Florida State at Clemson. Man, this game has lost so much luster. from what it used to be. I mean, Clemson lost again last week, 46-45 to Duke at home. And it feels like this is probably the beginning of the end for Dabo. That's what it feels like to me. And I don't know who wins here tomorrow, because both teams have fallen apart so much that, I mean, you know, who do you even trust more right now in the spot between Mark Norvell and Dabo Swinney?
It's almost like what happened in the SEC last week between Kentucky and Auburn. The loser lost their job. Do you think that can happen also between that matchup?
It feels like if Florida State loses, that might be the case. I don't know. I mean, Dabo may get grace. Dabo just won the ACC last year and made the playoffs, and he's won 2 national championships. I do feel like the Clemson will give him as much grace as they possibly can because of the championships. So I don't think it's quite that, but it's humorous that Florida State and Clemson has fallen off this much of a cliff. So, in any case, let's pick some of the games. Of course, Tulane at number 22 Memphis is happening right now. Big American game for the G5. Tulane's up 20-17. Is Tulane going to hold on?
Yeah, it might. And it's sad that this game a couple of weeks ago was more decisive for the playoffs. It still is, but those teams, those programs will show more, better football.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and this game is absolutely massive for both teams. So I really do think that honestly, though, I think Memphis is going to come back in this game. It feels like, I don't know, I just have a feeling Memphis is going to come back in the second half. Now, tomorrow night, a long-standing rivalry game. Navy at number 10 Notre Dame. Navy's still kind of in the hunt. Do you think that
I'm going to go with Navy.
Ooh, I would love
Navy.
that. Notre Dame, no. We got to get Notre Dame in the playoffs. We all know how this is going to go, Gus. Okay. How about Oregon going to Iowa tomorrow?
That's a dangerous game.
A very dangerous game. I'm actually going to – I think Iowa's going to win.
I think so, too. Give me the Hawkeyes.
Yeah, very dangerous. All right. Texas A&M going to Missouri.
Texas A&M.
I agree. Missouri on their back quarterback, A&M big. And then the game of the week, the only top 10 matchup of the week in the Big 12. Number 7 BYU undefeated going to number 8 Texas Tech in Lubbock. Patrick Mahomes on College game day. Who do we got here?
Texas Tech.
I agree. Give me Texas Tech. All right. Just some other quick notes here. We do have college basketball started this week. The Vols got a 15-point win over Mercer. A bit of a clunky start, but what I liked is I thought the team really got after the basket hard. I thought they really drove hard. And we have a lot of good players in the front court. And I thought Nana Mint, too, our 5-star forward, really showed a lot of grit get into the basket. So I'm excited to see them play some tougher competition. It's not going to be until November 24th when they play Rutgers. They played North Florida tomorrow. I don't know if you got to see any of that game, Gus, with the basketball. So in any case, one funny note I just want to point out from the other night, freaking Auburn went to overtime with Buffy and Cookman. And we must have a severe thunderstorm warning. So let me turn that off real quick.
Oh, wow. That was loud. It woke me up here in Americana. That was a loud noise.
So this is a reminder to all right. So this is a reminder to everyone, if you live in the United States, buy yourself a NOAA weather radio because it could save your life. It's a smoke alarm for a tornado. So that's what it sounds like. Let me actually here, I could kind of show what it looks like here real quick on the live stream.
Yeah.
Oh, I might have to turn off my backdrop here, but you see what I'm holding here. This thing right here. So this thing alerts me to every severe thunderstorm warning, tornado warning, whatever. Of course, as I mentioned earlier, we do have some weather that's moving on all.
But does it also work as a FM radio?
It doesn't. Not really. No, I really honestly just use this for because you can see right now, like it's telling me about the warning here in this. It's a severe thunderstorm warning right now for Sequatchie, Bledsoe, Northern Hamilton, Northern Bradley. So I'm not really even affected by this, but it's a storm that's kind of moving into the northern part of the viewing area. And these storms will probably reach me in like an hour or so. But that's just my PSA and my pitch to go get yourselves a NOAA weather radio. Because literally you could be sleeping, especially here in a place like Tennessee, like we get a lot of storms at night. So that thing could 100% save your life one day. And yeah, we got ourselves some pretty nice storms moving in here. So we'll try to speed on up here. Okay, so Auburn went to overtime with Bethune-Cookman. Wild start to Stephen Pearl's tenure. Auburn looks like they have some serious issues. They lost a lot off of last year's team. After they lost their coach.
And did you saw like Steve Pearl's punch at the football team?
I did not.
Yeah, saying that the fans are tired of waiting to win. Like clearly, punching a little bit of the football team. That saying that
so Auburn's become Kentucky. We're gonna have just see that's the thing that's great about Tennessee. Is we have no coach like Josh Heupel and Rick Barnes will always support each other, right? Like in public, like you're never going to have this discord, and then that's testament to the leadership of Danny White, who some of our idiot fans want to fire too. So there you go. Idiotic indeed. Okay. Also, Lady Vols, they're now 1-1. They beat ETSU tonight, but Kim Caldwell had to kick off Ruby Whitehorn because of off the field issues. She had was caught with weeds, so just unfortunate situation there. But the Lady Vols, I think they'll be all right still, but that could hurt them come down the stretch in March. Now, all right, quickly to the NFL. There's some quick takeaways from last week. Bills beat the Chiefs again in the regular season. But as I keep on saying, I need to see them do it in January. Can they ever do it in January? You can beat them in October or in November. Can you beat them in January?
Yeah, that's the big question. If the Bills can, recreate those performances when it actually matters in the AFC.
Yeah. Also, how is Mike McDaniel not fired for the Miami Dolphins? Like that Thursday night.
Oh, he will. He will when the season's done.
Yeah, the Dolphins are so bad. It's just insane how much they've fallen off. And also, too, when are they going to replace Tua? Tua is the other question, too, because he's not playing well at all. And it's just the team's not rallying around him. Also, the Washington Commanders, it feels like their season is about over at this point. I mean, Jalen Daniels got hurt again. I mean, it's just, it's hard to replicate last year's magic, and I think they're going to have to go back to the drawing board in terms of protection. But I don't think you should quit up on Dan Quinn. I think that you give him next year, see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a tricky spot, but, you shouldn't give up that easily.
Oh, Tulane just scored again, 35-17 now, Tulane over Memphis. The Cowboys lost to the Cardinals. Of course, obviously, I'm not going to make fun of the Cowboys right now. They've had a horrible week of what happened.
Yeah.
What happened off the field, what I believe was with Marcus Nealand. So just obviously just a horrible situation there, and I can only imagine what they're going through. I did want to ask, do we think Kyler Murray's done in Arizona?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
not only him. I think you mentioned Kyler Murray and also Russell Wilson. All those short quarterbacks, they're all bad.
Yeah, it is the end for that style of quarterback, I think. Also, one more thing I wanted to mention. The Bengals have the worst defense I've ever seen in the NFL. Like, my God, they let the Jets score 40 points, and then the Bears come in and score 47. And they let a backup running back run for 176 yards. It's unfathomable that a defense could be that bad in the NFL. It's insane.
Yeah,
But
I guess they're gonna have to do a lot in the off season.
yeah, but hey, a lot of that's what happens when a lot of your cap is invested in Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Which hey, you had to pay those players to keep them, but you have to wonder if either one of those players are regretting doing so.
Yeah.
All right. So let's kind of get into some picks real quick for this week. Of course, we missed Broncos being the Raiders last night, 10-7. It sounds like I didn't miss much there. So, all right, real quick. Falcons, Colts in Berlin.
Give me Colts.
Yep, Colts. All right, the 1 o'clock games, the Browns at the Jets.
Oh, my God. A team that have lost all their home games versus a team that lost all their road games. What a matchup. Give me the Jets.
Yeah,
Give
Jets.
me the Jets.
All right, the Saints at the Panthers.
Panthers.
Yeah, Panthers. Right, Rico Dowdle has he might be a top 10 running back right now in the league. This is a good one though. Patriots at the Buccaneers.
Give me the Bucks. The former Tom Brady, the Tom Brady Bowl.
Yep. I'm going to go with the Patriots on the road to win. All right, we got the Ravens at the Vikings.
Give me the Vikings.
I'm going to take the Ravens. I think they're about to go on a run with Lamar Jackson being back. Okay, AFC East battle here we have Bills and Dolphins.
Oh, Bills, 100%.
Bills. All right, Giants at the Bears.
Bears, they're keeping better every week.
100%. Bears are a dangerous team. I'll take them. Last 1 o'clock game, we have the Jags at the Texans.
Texans.
I like the Texans. That has potential to be a really, really good game. All right, 4 o'clock games, we've got Cardinals at Seahawks.
Seahawks.
I'll take Seahawks. 4:25 games, we have the Lions at the Commanders.
I think that's the best matchup in this week 10.
I think Rams at 49ers is better, and Eagles at Packers are better.
Oh, yeah, Rams and 49ers. I think, yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah, I was talking about Lions Commanders.
Oh, sorry. Give me the Lions.
Yeah, I'll take the Lions. But yeah, the Rams 49ers, though, I mean, it feels like whoever wins this game will definitely have the inside track to winning.
Give me the Rams.
Yeah, I'll take the Rams as well. Brock Purdy's supposed to be back. The Sunday night game, Steelers at Chargers. The Steelers will have more fans there, probably.
Chargers.
I'll take the Chargers as well. And then Monday night, finally a great Monday night game here. The Eagles at the Packers.
A rematch of last year's Sao Paulo game.
Yes, and a wild card game as well.
Give me Eagles.
Yep, I'll take the Packers. I think they bounce back.
How about the Tennessee Titans versus bye week?
It depends on how many drinks Amy Adams Trunks has at Tootsie's. I'm gonna give the bye week a great shot to pull it off. But you know what, Gus? I win because I don't have to watch the Tennessee Titans this week. I'm so excited, Gus. Best week of the year. Okay, very, very last thing. Just quick on the NASCAR. Kyle Larson has won the NASCAR Cup Championship. And what has frankly just turned an absolute crap show. The NASCAR has to stop with this playoff stuff. Denny Hamlin was up by 4 seconds with 3 laps to go. A caution comes out because of William Byron blowing a tire. And because of a pit call, he loses the championship. Now, Denny Hamlin's crew chief, Chris Gale, has to take responsibility for making that pit call. But at the end of the day, it should never come down to this. It should be a full season format, especially what we saw in the Xfinity Series with Connor Zilisch, who had gone 17 straight races without finishing outside the top 5 because he finishes second place in the final race. He lost the championship. That's not racing. We need full season format, and I think NASCAR is going to change it. For all the momentum seems to be that they're going to change it, and I think this weekend has killed it. It's killed the goodwill. And the problem right now for NASCAR is they have lost all legitimacy when it comes to their championship. And because and I've talked about this, guys, about how I love watching the races, but I don't care about the championship because I think it's a joke. And I hate that. I want to care about the champion. because I should care about the champion, right? Like, why else? Like, that should be one of the main reasons why I watch. And I don't care about it because I think it's a joke. I just watch for the individual races. I want NASCAR. I want to care about this, about the champion, and I want it to be legitimate. Please fix this. Thank you.
Yeah, like look what Formula One style has been bringing so much emotion in the last few years.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that I really do think there is bright times ahead for NASCAR, but they got to make some moves, and they got to make some moves now to really, because like you're never going to have like the biggest audience ever. You're not going to have all the casual fans, maybe like you did in the 90s or 2000s, but keep your core fan base happy, and you'll always be okay. But Gus, I think it's time for us to get out of here before the storm reaches me.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So y'all stay safe out there if you're in the Chattanooga Metro.
Or in Americana too.
Yep, I advise. Yeah, because there's going to be a stormy night around here. But in any case, for Gus Tomazelli, I'm Nick Hill. Thank you so much for watching episode 206 of Two Countries, Two Americas, All Sports. Have a great night.